having first shocked the art world in 1962 with his images of Campbell's soup tins.
I should have still been painting it. It would have been a better thing.
Warhol's arrival at his London gallery is like a royal progress. The enfant terrible become grand old man of modern art.
What prompted this one?
It's just, I ran out of ideas.
There's one nice picture painted about 100 times, different colours, but I mean, I think it's just a bit boring, to be honest.
He was always sort of particularly adept at capturing a time, and possibly the time isn't really interesting anymore, and that's why the art isn't really particularly interesting.
This is my favorite piece of art. This is Leopold Berth's Angelique. It depicts the moment Orlando, riding a hippogriff, arrives to save his beloved Angelique. She has been chained to a rock and is quietly accepting her fate. Beset by furious waves, naked as she was born, Angelique is a mere blink from being devoured by the Orc, a sea monster said to nigh hide the sea from sight. The scene depicted is one from Ludovico Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, an Italian epic poem penned circa 1520. Stylized after Greek and Roman antiquity, Berth's render is an exemplar of the neoclassicism movement of the late 18th and 19th centuries. Art movements provide a brutish display of contemporary artists' psyche and are, therefore, an unrivaled look into the past. The desire to re-inspire traditional value, especially the Grecian Republic of old, drove artists to evoke scenes of classic literature. Mimicking the academic style and motifs of the Romantic period was a great departure from the bourgeois Rococo movement which preceded neoclassicism. Rococo, a symbol of the hedonistic decadence of the aristocracy, neoclassicism, a symbol of the Age of Enlightenment. Yet, as dawn rose on the 20th century, a new age of thought, reason, industry, and art arose. A modern age. Modern art tends to be the art people don't get. The brash and unabraded movement is actually an all-encompassing term for many art movements from the 20th century. Impressionism, Cubism, Suprematism, and everyone's favorite, public art, all fall under this umbrella of modern art. You can also see Eroguro as covered in my last video on body horror. The artists of these movements all shared a goal of deconstructing artistic rules and methods. Take, for example, Lee Krasner, an abstract expressionist painter. She sought to freely express a moment, a mental snapshot, a raw and unabridged primal feeling. There was a resistance to cohesive style in order to uplift the viewer's individual response free of the artist. There's a common perception that modern art movements are too high art, too open to interpretation. Truthfully though, and heed this, I implore you, viewer, modern art, in all its facets, are the most raw, sincere human expressions since the horses of Chaveau Pont d'Arc cave over 30,000 years ago. Yet, perhaps most controversial and ill-received of recent history, pop art is met with disdain by many. Seen as valueless, commercialist, trite even, pop art is widely perceived as lazy capitalist subterfuge, the harbinger of the hyper-consumerist era and the headstone of an antiquated bygone era. In many ways, pop art does represent the intrinsic negative to movements like neoclassicism. It's the final evolution of the debauched romanticism we once valued in fine art. In other words, yeah, pop art is bullshit. But, that's the point. The Sistine Chapel ceiling was commissioned by Pope Julius II. The most powerful man in the world paid Michelangelo for a commercial art gig in the 1500s. Pop art serves to eliminate the bourgeois veil between art and consumer, where The Birth of Venus is a haughty soliloquy, Campbell's Soup 1 is a candid conversation. It's the art of the people, and as such, art produced for mass consumption is, in effect, pop art. Whether it's t-shirts, cartoons, album covers, stickers, illustration, or, your favorite card game. Why then do some harbor such aversion to art which doesn't appear traditional? This channel exists to highlight artists and teach viewers like you how to appreciate and analyze their art. As I stated, people perceive pop art styles as lazy and underdeveloped without knowing what really goes into creating the work. I could change your mind, but, I'll let Rope Arrow speak for himself.
Hey, I am Rope Arrow. I am the artist for the currently on sale Secret Lair Draw Your Hand.
Tyler Day, also known as Rope Arrow, is a 26-year-old artist from West Virginia. He has a bachelor's degree in fine art with an emphasis on printmaking from West Virginia University. Printmaking can manifest in numerous ways. Woodcutting, etching, lithography, relief, and silk screening are all printmaking techniques. T-shirts, posters, and skateboards are a few simple examples of where printmaking would be utilized. It requires laying down one part of the composition at a time with a single color, before laying down subsequent layers to build up different details until the entire image is composited. This requires an understanding of how the colors will interact and how to best break down your composition into layers before committing to a final design. Rope Arrow's current process has become fully digital using Procreate, but is identical to his printmaking process.
It's the exact same way I approach creating a print. It's a little different in that now I can just take my sketch and straight up draw over top of it. But I would sketch, get the sketch I like, and then draw it on the block, and then carve it out. And the way I approach creating imagery, you'll see that a lot of my stuff I stick to 2 or 3 colors. Forever I was trying to force digital work to be this kind of clean, almost perfect thing, because that's what it allows you to do. Yeah, printmaking is absolutely foundational to every single thing I do in art. I approach everything as if I'm doing a print, and want things to look like prints as much as possible, to the point of replicating the little mistakes you make when making a print, or the ink peeling up. Printmaking is absolutely foundational to everything I do. It is way more than just relates to my current art. It is my current art.
As I mentioned previously, art is an unparalleled look into the soul of the artist. Arrow has been influenced by many great works of both sci-fi and fantasy, from Halo to Godzilla, Dungeons & Dragons, and Pathfinder.
And it's funny because there's a single artwork that I can source back to me getting into fantasy, and that is Wayne Reynolds' work on the cover of the original Pathfinder core rulebook. He did this amazing red dragon fighting a party of adventurers.
West Virginia has a strong urban legend culture, which fascinated Arrow early on. With all the tales of Mothman and Devil Dogs, it's no wonder his favorite thing to draw is monsters. We spoke candidly about his dream project for Wizards, which he expressed as working on Ikoria 2 as a showcase artist. His greatest artistic influence, however, to my surprise and delight, was typography.
In terms of just what makes me curious and what makes me excited about art, the biggest thing is typography. My phone is filled with just pictures of going to antique shops, seeing an old comic, and oh, they wrote the word creepy really cool there, and taking a picture and walking away with it and probably never looking at it again. But it's seared in my head. Typography gets me really into things. Yeah, typography. The easy, the gut answer to that question is typography. Yeah.
Typography is a beautiful art and highly underrated. Rope hand-lettered his cards for Secret Lair Draw Your Hand. Despite being dyslexic, he laid down a font for spacing and created his own on top of it to match his cards. God, I'm such a little fanboy for typography. I could spend a whole video on it. I don't know, maybe I should. Anyways, Rope Era's influence all culminate in a style reminiscent of old band and movie posters. Bruna, Light of Alabaster, for example, was originally rendered by Winona Nelson, an absolute force of traditional painterly style. Rope Arrow has represented her not as if she was standing before you, but rather he has diluted her down to the feelings she evokes. Without bastardizing the original creation, he emphasizes key details which speak to him.
Bruna was a beast. The text on Bruna, like, she just has... It felt like I was handed Questing Beast, like when I'm writing it all by hand and with 7 layers, you know? Bruna was just rough, because, like, I wanted a ton of Sailor Moon influence. I wanted her to be a badass. Her card is super cool. It is a super cool effect that you don't see on anything else. The art is absolutely gorgeous and already very, very Sailor Moon-y, like with all the ribbons and stuff flying off of her. But initially I had her in a very, very, like, Sailor Moon pose, of like arms outstretched and like ribbons going around her, and that the text was on the ribbons and stuff. Tom and I went back and forth on it a ton, and eventually we were like, it just needs to be more dynamic. She's very standing still, and I wanted her, like, she wasn't looking cool. Her face was very, like, cute. I specifically wanted Bruna to look cool. We were like, how can we keep the aesthetics of Sailor Moon but give her the action of Batman? I immediately went to silhouetting her against the moon, Innistrād's, like, moon. I've got the heron and stuff on there in the art. I've got, like, a really cool pose going for her, and did the Batman animated series, like, eyes on her, where it's just the, like, whites of her eyes. And so we got to the point where we got the layout, we got the text looking good, and it was just the colors that weren't really doing it for us. I was hung up on how to make a white card with a bunch of bold colors. There's a card from Ikoria, it's like Bring to Light or something. It's got this girl, like, over a balcony throwing a bunch of petals into the wind, and they're like super bright pink. And I was like, okay, pink is a white color. We can run with that. Because I was still thinking very literally on the colors of the art, and that was something Tom was like, no, you don't have to. Like, you can make Bruna bright red if you want. Like, but I was hung up on, like, but she's white blue. Like, she needs to be white blue. And I think I posted on, it was either Reddit or Twitter, the big color block that I sent him of like, okay, here's a billion colors I've tried. Let's pick one out of this. And we went with like the 90s styrofoam cup palette. Yeah, once we got those colors, that's what really nailed Bruna to me. And I think Bruna is probably my favorite out of them.
He mentions Questing Beast as an example of a card with heavy rules text. Exactly what you would expect from someone who started playing during Throne of Eldraine. Sailor Moon served as his main influence for Bruna's design and palette, ideal for an artsy 90s kid. He posed her like Batman in front of the moon and styled her eyes like that of the 90s animated series. He even mentions the palette is reminiscent of the generic styrofoam cups from the 90s. This is an astounding example of how much an artist's personality and heart goes into a single piece. Looking further into the design of the card, we can see how Rope Arrow subtly styled the font like the clouds that surround Bruna. There's a slight stroke around her abilities, so they stand out from the busy background. Filed neatly into the rays of the moon are the card's name, supertype, and subtype. These rays then bleed seamlessly into the border, breaking up the depth. The effect of this choice is a highly dynamic scene that doesn't become too noisy or distracting. There are only 4 colors in this piece: a dark foresty green which staples the extreme foreground and background, a saturated mid-tone of mid to low value teal that doesn't distract or hurt the eyes lays softly as the fill for the clouds and the subject, hot pink, which acts as the light source. It emanates from the moon, casts a glow through the feathered wings of our subject, and bounces subtly off the rolling, fluffy clouds. Finally, a neutral, dingy white. Not too strong or clean, and closer to an organic, unbleached cotton paper. There's even an underlying hairy paper texture, sealing the poster-like stylization. Rope Arrow is so loving and so diligent of printmaking that even when pushing digital ink around a screen, he can convoke the iconic feeling of an entrancing silk-screened poster. Despite Rope Arrow's fluidity and expertise making it all look easy, it's not. As I interviewed him, I saw touches of unsureness. It's been a year since he was contracted by Wizards and given a secret layer to work on. He was unable to celebrate because of the NDA that accompanies such work. Looking back now, he said it was difficult for it to sink in or feel like he had arrived, so to speak.
I'm still wrapping my head around it. And especially like the year of not being able to talk about anything was pretty rough. It still does not even feel real. I think I will literally be playing a Bruna commander deck with Bruna at the helm with my name at the bottom of it, and I still won't really get it. Like, it won't click in me. It's given me like this weird imposter syndrome of like, oh, that was so long ago to me. Yeah, like especially like with Sam Burley in the same drop, it's like, God, it's really hard to not be comparative, and not be like, how, like how did I get picked for that? And like, I don't know. Yeah, it's amazing, but it's also been like kind of mentally rough on that front.
Okay, so with all of that in mind, what's been the hardest part of your journey so far?
The hardest part is honestly just like the doing this and then having to go work retail every day, especially specifically with the magic thing. Like, it was like, man, and it still is like this, like, man, I did this really cool big thing and I've got a lot of people telling me how good I am as an artist, and I still can't get a job as an artist. I've been turned down so many times for graphic design positions, and there was one recently that I was like about to put in a 2 weeks because I was that confident that I was going to get it, and then they just pulled it out from under me last second. Now, I would love to work as a graphic designer or as an illustrator or something, and it just never happens. Yeah, it's like the being told you're doing great things and then not seeing really any results out of it. I mean, you know, I've had commissions pick up and things like that, but just yeah, not seeing results is the hardest part.
I'm curious how you kept your head up and what made you keep making art through everything.
I think the answer to that is I didn't for a while. I mean, I had the stat box and stuff done for a long time, but I did the art for my D&D races, and then posted those, and then I just didn't do much for a long time. And I did like some like commission work here and there for local businesses, and that's about it for a long time until I found like honestly, magic was a big part of getting me back into doing art again. Just there. I think the answer to that is for a long time I just didn't. And magic, honestly, and all the great art in it is something that really helped me get back into the groove and like get back to regularly making stuff that I enjoy. And magic fan art let me do that little thing that I wanted to do, like, which is I want to draw monsters. I want to draw big fantasy swords and like stupid stuff, and that's what got me back into it. It was magic that got me back into art so heavy. And
Tyler Day works a 9-to-5 at a retail store. He's 26 years old, he likes monster movies and plays video games. Rope Arrow is a Magic the Gathering artist with a modern edge who recently had his own Secret Lair release. They're the same person, of course, but it can feel impossible to reconcile when by all accounts you've made it, and you still punch a time card like everyone else. These are my words, not Tyler's, not Rope Arrow's. As a struggling artist myself, I know the feeling of wanting to be seen and always being looked over. Rope Arrow has been seen. Millions have seen him. Thousands know his name. Yet, Tyler struggles with truly feeling like the accomplished, well-practiced artist he is. He is the reason I started this channel. He loves to tell stories, draw pictures, make stickers, play games, and serve you. The consumer, the viewer. Artists of every kind, architects, painters, printmakers, dancers, singers, actors, all want the same thing: to make you feel seen, to make you feel real. All they want in return is the same. Dale Carnegie's second principle in his book How to Win Friends and Influence People reads as follows: give honest and sincere appreciation. I wish to impart you with all the knowledge you need to have a cultured conversation at the game table. I hope you to feel the utmost graciousness for the artists who need you as you need them. See them. Speak their praise.
Yeah, that is something I have struggled with. Even like strangers on the internet, like, you know, I don't know how much that praise means. They might comment on every single thing and be like, oh, this is really great. It goes a couple different ways, like just casual praise, or what I really dislike is comparative praise. It is very hard for me to take praise for some reason. Like, I would rather have someone ask me like what my thoughts are, or like why I made a certain choice, than someone just saying like, hey, this is good. And I'm like, okay, thanks. I don't know what to do with that. I appreciate it. I know that it's coming from a good place, but I don't know how to read that, you know? Yeah, that's probably it. When people are actively engaging with my work and can tell me why they like it, that is what I really, really appreciate. Yeah, when someone can tell you specifically why they like something and not just that they like something, which I do appreciate. But like, the best thing to hear is like when someone is like, man, I really like the way you did this, or, you know, this part isn't the best, but you really nailed this one. Like that's the stuff I really like to hear.
Every card is a game piece. More than that, every card is a piece of art. From its form to its function, border to border, and there within, a piece of art. One of hundreds of thousands, yet violently unique. Just like the Magic player that shuffles them together. Just like you. If you are to believe me, as you ought to, then you must agree that every deck then becomes a gallery, your own personal museum. Further still, you would agree, no gallery could be complete with a single art, artist, or style of art. The brilliance of Richard Garfield's idea was that no two players would be required to play with the same pieces. One could play any assortment of cards and, as such, could express their desired playstyle, interests, or preferences. This is all to say that your deck, too, is art. When you support Rope Arrow and artists like him, you directly aid in uplifting voices like yours. Art is so much bigger than you, or Rope Arrow, or this Vagabond gallery we wander. This is my call to action. Demand more art. Demand more artists. Demand more styles and mediums, and support all the voices in Magic the Gathering. If you have the means, buy Rope Arrow's Secret Lair and tell Wizards you want more. Or, this could be your one and only chance to display his work in your gallery. Then, you'll have no one to blame when you too are left without a voice. I want to thank you for watching this video. I'm still very new to this, but the support has been overwhelming. This is a massive passion of mine as an artist and a Magic player, and seeing how many people have been responsive to it has truly, truly, truly meant the entire world to me, so thank you. Like I said, support Rope Arrow by buying the Draw Your Hand Secret Lair, and go check out Rope Arrow's Patreon. There's a link in the description for both of those. Also, be sure to follow Rope Arrow on Instagram and Twitter at Rope Arrow, and while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow at Yeti Skull. Finally, I'd like to shout out the Commander Sealed event, an incredibly unique Magic the Gathering event that is also for a good cause. Commander Sealed is a charity event that directly supports Trans Lifeline and the Trevor Project. They have 2 extremely limited playmats which you can purchase to help support either charity or both. Both of them were designed by Rope Arrow.